Jake opened his eyes to the sound of a loud alarm. He was late again. He jumped from his bed and rushed to get ready for his shift. The space station was never quiet, and today was not an exception. He opened his locker, ready to grab his uniform, but it was empty. His boots, his jacket, his pants, everything was gone. Jake blinked, confused. He rubbed his eyes and looked again, still empty. He looked around his room, checking every corner. There were no signs of anyone entering. No open door, no broken lock, nothing. Okay? This is weird, Jake said to himself. He grabbed a towel and wrapped it around his waist. Just then, a knock came at his door. "Jake, are you in there?" "You missed roll call again," said a voice from outside. Panic hit him. He couldn't open the door like this. He searched again, pulling drawers and flipping his bed covers. Still nothing. Then, something even stranger happened. A soft laugh echoed in his room, not from outside, not from a speaker inside the room. It was playful, high-pitched, almost musical. Jake froze. "Who's there?" he asked, heart beating fast. A small flicker of blue light appeared in the air. Then a figure slowly formed. It was a hologram of a girl tall, with glowing skin and silver eyes. Her hair floated like it was underwater. She smiled, waving at Jake. "Good morning, human," she said. Jake stepped back, holding the towel tightly. "Where are my clothes?" he asked. The girl giggled. "I borrowed them just for fun." "Borrowed?" Jake shouted, "Give them back," but she vanished before he could say more. The blue light faded, and the room was quiet again. Jake stood there, speechless. He wasn't dreaming, that was real. Who was she? He sat down, trying to think. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe someone was testing a new hologram system. But why target him? His computer screen turned on by itself. A message appeared in red text. "You're not safe. She's watching you." Jake's eyes widened. Was this part of the prank too? He checked the sender. There was none. The message blinked once and disappeared. Now he was really scared. This wasn't just a joke anymore. Someone had access to his room, to his system. And that alien girl, she wasn't part of the crew. He opened the crew database, typing fast. He searched for female aliens stationed here. No match. She wasn't listed. Jake stood up, forgetting he only had a towel on. He didn't care anymore. Something strange was going on, and it was just beginning. The door knocked again, louder this time. "Jake, if you don't come out now, I'm opening the door." He rushed to his bed and hid behind it. Not now, not like this, then. On the floor, he noticed something new. A small glowing cube, silver and pulsing with light. He hadn't seen it before. It sat there like it was waiting for him. Jake crawled forward and picked it up. The light grew brighter. Then it made a small click, like it had started something. Jake looked at it and whispered, "What are you?" Jake sat on the floor, staring at the glowing cube in his hand. It didn't move, it didn't talk, but it pulsed like a heartbeat. He placed it on his desk and backed away slowly. His mind was spinning. "Who are you?" he whispered again. But the cube stayed silent. He looked around his room, afraid that the alien girl might appear again, but she didn't. Everything was quiet. He walked to his computer and sat down. He had to find out who that girl was. She said it was just a prank. But Jake didn't believe that anymore. He opened the crew files and started searching. He looked for names, species, recent visitors. Nothing matched, no silver-eyed girl, no glowing skin. Then he checked the security logs. The station recorded every hallway, every room. He rewound the footage from this morning. He saw himself walking to his room last night. He saw the door close, then glitch. The footage skipped 5 seconds. When it came back, the room was empty. His clothes were gone, and something moved. In the corner, he paused the screen and zoomed in. There was a blurge, just a shimmer. like someone invisible had passed through. Jake leaned closer, heart racing. It looked like the same blue shimmer that came before the girl appeared. He searched for similar glitches. To his surprise, he found 5 more. 5 different rooms, 5 different times. Small objects missing, crew confused. All were marked as minor errors by the system no one had investigated. Jake frowned. It wasn't a one-time prank. She had done this before. Then he found a file, buried deep in the system. It was locked with a high-level code. Jake bypassed it using an old engineer trick. The file opened. Inside was one word. Tira. He clicked it. A hologram image appeared. Was her same silver eyes, same glowing skin, below her picture. There was no data, no planet, no species, no status. Just one label. Unregistered entity, avoid interaction. Jake felt cold. Why was she here? And why was no one stopping her? Suddenly, his computer screen flickered. Lines of code rushed across the screen. The cube on the table glowed brighter. A voice came from it, soft and sharp. I told you not to dig. Jake, he jumped from his chair's face appeared on the screen. She wasn't smiling this time. I was just having fun. She said, you're ruining it. Jake tried to turn off the system. The controls were frozen. I want to know the truth, he said. She tilted her head. Truth is boring. Then the screen went black. The lights in his room shut off. The cube stopped glowing. Silence. Jake grabbed a flashlight and moved carefully. He opened the door and peeked out into the hallway. It was empty. He stepped out. Heart pounding. He had to tell someone. He had to find help. But just as he turned the corner, a blue flash appeared. On the wall, words burned into the metal like fire. You are being watched. Jake froze. This wasn't just mischief. This was a game, and he had just become the main player. Jake sat in the control room, the cube resting on the table beside him. It hadn't made a sound since the blackout. But now, as the station lights came back on, the cube started to hum again, soft, low. Like a machine waking from sleep, he reached for it slowly, carefully. The moment his fingers touched it, the humming stopped. Then, small panel slid open from its side. Inside, there was a tiny screen showing numbers. A countdown. Jake's heart skipped a beat. What happens when it's spook? What happens when it's reaches 0? He whispered, 30 seconds left. He placed it on the floor and stepped back. 25 seconds. He looked around the room. Should he call for help? Should he run? The station was huge, but there was nowhere to hide from a bomb. 15 seconds. The cube glowed brighter. Then it began to rise in the air, slowly spinning. Jake stared in fear. Unable to move. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. He braced for an explosion. 6, 5, 4. He covered his head. 3, 2. The light vanished. No sound, no fire, no damage. Just silence. Jake opened his eyes. In front of him, where the cube had floated, there was now a hologram. It showed Earth, his home. But something was wrong. The image glitched, colors shifting, buildings warping. People moved like shadows with no faces. Then the screen zoomed into his city. His street, his house. He gasped. He saw himself walking, laughing, eating, but it wasn't real. It was like a memory, a copy. Then a voice spoke. Do you miss it? Jake turned around. Tira was back, standing behind him, smiling gently. What is this? He asked. Just a game, she said. Your memories, your life, your choices. Jake shook his head. You can't do this. But I already did, she replied. She stepped closer. I wanted to understand humans. She said, you were interesting. Is that why you took my clothes? Jake asked. She laughed again. That part was funny. Jake didn't laugh. This is serious, he said. You're playing with people's lives. Tira tilted her head. I only play with the ones who notice me. she said. Most don't. The hologram shifted again. This time, it showed other people his crew, each one with their own small cube, each one being watched, tested. Jake's chest tightened. You're using us, he said. Like lab rats, Tira frowned. No, more like puzzles. You need to stop, Jake said. She looked at him, her silver eyes glowing. You want me to stop? She asked, then beat me. Jake raised an eyebrow. Beat you? How? She smiled. You'll figure it out. Then she vanished again. The cube on the table glowed bright blue. Jake walked over and picked it up. The numbers were back, but this time they counted up, not down, and beneath the screen was his name. Jake Morrow. Below his name was one word. Subject. Jake's blood ran cold. He wasn't just a person to her. He was part of an experiment. He clenched his fist. Whatever this was, it wasn't a joke anymore. It was war, and he was going to fight back. Asterisk Jake sat alone in the corner of the research room. The cube rested in his palm, still counting upward. The number was over 10,000 now. He didn't know what it meant, but he knew it was tracking something. Maybe time, maybe actions, maybe him. He looked at the word again. Subject. It made him feel small, like a mouse in a maze. But Jake was not a mouse. He stood up and pulled open the wall panel. Inside was a data port. He connected the cube to it using a custom cable he had built. The cube resisted at first, but then the screen flashed green. Connection successful. Lines of alien code scrolled across his terminal. He couldn't read it, but it looked like logs. Dates, times, events all focused on him. The cube had been watching for months, recording his emotions, reactions, choices it knew more about him than anyone else. Then he saw something worse. Experiment level 4 of 7. There were levels, and he was already halfway through. Jake leaned back. What is she testing? He muttered. A soft voice answered. You. He turned. Tira stood behind him again, her body glowing softly, eyes calm but unreadable. Jake stood firm. I'm not part of your game anymore. He said. You already are, she replied. You've always been. Jake pointed at the screen. You've been watching everything. My life, my memories, my fear. Tira nodded. Yes, and now I want to understand your decisions. My decisions. He asked. She raised her hand and another hologram appeared. It showed Jake yelling at a crew member last week. Then another memory Jake ignoring a distress signal 6 months ago. Then one more Jake lying about a fuel leak. Jake looked away. I had reasons, he said. I believe you, Tara said softly. But I want to know if you can change. This isn't about change, Jake snapped. This is control. Tira looked almost sad. I don't want control. I want connection. She walked to the terminal and placed her hand above the cube. A new screen opened, this one with a single question. What makes you human? Jake stared at the words. He didn't know what to say. Kindness? Pain? Regret? Or was it choice? Is this the test? He asked. Tira nodded. Answer it, and you move forward. Jake thought carefully. Then he typed, the ability to choose. Even when it hurts, the screen blinked, then flashed green. Level 4, complete. The cube chimed softly. Tira smiled. You may not believe me, but I'm proud of you. Jake frowned. Proud. You're using me? No, she said. I'm learning from you. She walked backward into the light and vanished again. Jake looked at the cube. The number had reset. Now it read, Level 5 initiated. Suddenly, his room faded. The walls melted. Into light, his bed, desk, and gear disappeared. He looked down. He was standing on glass. Floating in space, all around him were stars. Then shapes appeared, like ghostscapes of himself. One angry, one afraid, one smiling. Each one looked at him with judging eyes. A voice whispered, "This level is not about your past. It's about the version of you that survives." Jake floated in darkness. There was no sound, no air, no ground, only stars blinking around him like distant eyes. His feet rested on clear glass that stretched forever. He turned in slow circles. Then came the voices, soft at first, then louder. All of them sounded like him. "You should have stayed quiet. You always run. You're not the hero." He looked ahead and saw three versions of himself. One wore a uniform, clean and perfect. One was covered in dirt and blood. One had no face at all. Jake stepped forward, confused and angry. "What is this?" He shouted. A whisper answered. "Level 5. The world blinked." The stars faded, and suddenly, Jake stood in a hallway. Not just any hallway, was the one from the station. The smell was the same. The lights flickered the same, but something was off, too clean, too quiet, like a copy made from memory. He walked slowly. Doors appeared on both sides. Each door had a word on it: regret, fear, anger, guilt. He paused in front of one labeled regret. The door opened on its own. Inside, he saw himself sitting at a table. Across from him was a young man in a broken suit. The man was crying. Jake remembered this moment. He had denied the man help during a fuel shortage. Said it was not his problem. That man had died a week later. Jake stepped back. The door closed, then the hallway shook. Lights turned red, and alarms began to scream. He ran. The doors slammed shut, one by one. He found a door with no label and jumped through. Now he was back in the station's control room. Except the screens showed nothing but static, and Tira stood in the corner, waiting. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed to a chair. Jake sat down, breathing hard. She walked to a console and touched the screen. A new file appeared, labeled Final Mirror. "Open it," she said. Jake tapped the file. The screen showed a new version of him, but this one smiled with confidence. He looked stronger, wiser. Then it glitched. Now it showed a version of Jake shouting, blaming others. Another glitch now, a version of Jake sitting alone, crying. The screen kept shifting between different Jakes, good ones, bad ones, broken ones. "This is the real test," Tira said. "Which one is you?" Jake looked at her. "All of them," he said. "Exactly." She replied, "You are many things." She walked closer. "Humans change," she said. "You hide your pain, your fear, but it stays inside." Jake nodded slowly. "So what do you want from me?" "I want to know if you can take control," she said, "of your mind, your guilt, your truth." Jake stood up. "Then I want out of this simulation." Tira raised her hand. The walls dissolved again. This time, Jake stood in a small room with mirrors on every side. In each one, a different version of himself stared back. He closed his eyes, breathed in deeply, and said aloud, "I'm not perfect, but I'm trying." The mirrors shattered like glass. Light exploded around him. And then silence. Jake opened his eyes. He was back in his room on the station. The cube rested on his desk, glowing softly. A message blinked on the screen. "Level 5 complete." Then a second line appeared. "Welcome to Level 6. Memory room, asterisk." Jake stood in front of the cube. The message blinked again. "Welcome to Level 6. Memory room." He reached toward it. And the cube melted into light. The light surrounded him, pulled him in, and swallowed everything. When he opened his eyes, he was in a new place. It looked like a library, but not made of books. Each shelf held glowing memory crystals, hundreds of them, each one pulsing with a soft blue light. Jake walked slowly. The floor beneath him was made of glass. Below it, he saw scenes from his own life moments, he thought. He had forgotten a birthday party as a child, a fight with his brother, a quiet walk alone on the surface of Mars. Then he saw her, Tira, standing at the end of the hallway. She looked younger now, smaller and more human. Her voice was soft. "Welcome to my favorite room." Jake frowned. "You said this was about me?" "It is," she said. "But it's also about me." She reached out and picked up one of the crystals. It glowed brighter in her hand. She handed it to Jake. "Watch," she said. He held the crystal and the air around him shimmered. He saw a planet, green skies, tall towers, and alien people. Then war, fire, and screams. The towers fell, the people vanished. And one figure remained, alone. It was Tira, standing in silence, watching her world fall apart. Jake's hands trembled. "You?" "Survived," she nodded. "They made me to keep knowledge safe. But everyone left, or died, or gave up. I stayed." Jake looked around the memory room. "All of these are your memories." "Some are mine," she said. "Some are yours, and some I created from imagination." Jake shook his head. "All this just to prank people. Teleport clothes. Scare me." Tira smiled sadly. "I didn't mean to scare you. I wanted to feel something real." He looked into her eyes. They didn't glow anymore. They looked tired, lonely. "I thought if I tested humans," she said, "I'd find one who understands." "And what happens when you find one?" Jake asked. She looked away. "I don't know." Jake turned back to the shelves. He noticed something strange. A crystal dark red humming louder than the others. It had his name on it. He picked it up, and a vision hit him. He saw himself. Shouting, breaking, lost in space, making terrible choices, hurting people. He dropped the crystal. "That's not real." Tira walked up behind him. "It's a future that could happen. Unless you choose a different path." Jake turned to her. "I don't want to play anymore. I want this to stop. I want to be free." Tira nodded. "I can give you that. But there's one more level." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Level 7. "Yes," she said. "The final choice." She waved her hand. The memory room began to shake. Crystals fell from the shelves. The glass floor cracked, lights blinked, sparks flew. Jake held onto a shelf. "What's happening?" "The loop is breaking," Tara said. "No more tests, just truth." The world collapsed in light, and Jake felt himself falling. Falling through time, through memory, through thought. When he awoke, he was in his own bed. The cube was gone. The room was still, but a message blinked on the wall screen. "Final level begins now. Prepare for the choice." Jake sat on the edge of his bed. The cube was gone. The memory room had vanished. But the feeling in his chest was heavy. The screen on his wall blinked with one final message. Level 7, choose. He didn't know what the choice would be, but he knew it mattered. The door to his room opened without sound. Light spilled in, and a soft breeze touched his face. That was strange. Space stations didn't have breezes. He stepped through the door, but it didn't lead to the hallway. Instead, it led to a field, green grass, blue skies, and birds singing. Jake looked around, stunned. "Where am I?" He whispered. A voice answered from behind. "My last world." He turned and saw Tira. But she looked different now, no longer glowing, no longer alien. Just a girl with tired eyes and a soft smile. "This is where I lived before the war," she said. Before I was left alone, Jake walked beside her. It felt real, too real. "Why show me this?" he asked. "Because now it's your turn to choose," she said. "You can stay here. In this world I built, it will be peaceful, safe, and you'll never be alone." Jake looked down at the grass. He could feel it between his fingers. The air smelled like rain. It felt like home. "What's the other choice?" he asked. Tira pointed behind him. He turned and saw a portal floating in the air. Through it, he saw the space station, his real room. Real life and real problems. If you go back, she said, the tests stop, but so does this world. Jake took a deep breath. Why can't you come with me? Tira shook her head. I don't belong there, she said. I was never real to them. But you are real to me. Jake replied. She smiled, the smallest smile he had ever seen. I'm tired, Jake, she said, but I'm glad I met you. He looked at both paths, peace or purpose, silence or reality, comfort or truth. He turned to Tara. I won't leave you alone again, he said, but I can't stay here forever either. She looked confused. What do you mean? Jake walked to the portal, then pulled a small device from his pocket. It was a memory chip. Come with me in here, he said. Let me take your story with me. Tira's eyes filled with light. Why? So others can know you. Jake said, so they can remember, even if you're just code. You're the most real person I've met out here. Tira placed her hand on the chip. A warm glow passed between them. Then she faded, smiling. Thank you, human, Jake. Stepped through the portal. The light swallowed him whole. He woke up in his bed. This time, fully dressed, the cube was gone, but the chip was in his hand. A new message blinked on his wall. Final level complete. Jake stood, walked to the command center. He placed the chip into the archive terminal. The screen lit up with her name. Tira, last AI of Aralis. He didn't say a word. He just watched. And as the crew walked by, he whispered to himself, she wasn't just Mischief. She was the best choice I ever made.